to you personally.
Game-changing discussions on the big ideas that shape our thinking.
We've been very focused on trying to accomplish something that is typically not done.
You have to be deliberate. That's the point I'm making. But it appears that things have gotten worse. So what happened? How did we get here?
Let people think. Let people be bold. And the country can change.
This is One to One.
Akintobi, a public affairs analyst and a journalist, joins us right here in our Lagos studios. Mr. Akintobi, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank God it's Monday.
Ah, it's Monday. You know, sometimes Monday used to be quite hectic. You had the weekend, but like you want to continue is it? I don't know what that is. But sometimes you just want to continue to sleep. Early mornings are not really easy. No. So let's get to, before we get to the papers, I was speaking with my colleague Kyle. I want to show Mr. Akintobi. So the FCT area council elections are coming up. And if you see the lineup of the APC on this matter, they are not joking. So if my producer can produce that list of, what's it called, National Campaign Council for the 2026 FCT area council election. So, Mr. Akintobi, when I'm saying like the APC is not joking, they're not it's area council, 6 area councils. They have on the list of members 26 or so, let's say just over 20 governors with a chairman and 3 co-chairmen, long list of senators, members of the House of Representatives. Where is that list? We have members of the Senate as well, including the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. What exactly is going on? 137 National Campaign Council for the 2026 FCT Area Council election by the APC, and they will be inaugurated on Wednesday. When I saw this, I said, what exactly is going on? Before I go to the papers, as a producer, I can't see.
Yeah, no, the list came up. It came up a minute
Okay,
ago.
let's put it back so that everybody can see it. Let's put it back, please. Mr. Akintobi.
Yeah, well, the APC is looking at this election as a litmus test against 2027. So they are coming out in full force to make sure that they leave no stone unturned to win all of the available seats. And now, what this tells you is that they recognize the fact that 2027 is going to be a contest. I mean, we've got opposition rallying around to put themselves in shape to give APC a run for his money. So, I mean, there's even a governor who just got elected who is on this committee. And my first thought was, would you even allow him to go and at least do a little bit of work in his state? But it shows that APC is not playing. They recognize the importance of 2027. So this is a test run for them. And so they're pulling out all the guns. 20 governors for area council elections. Amazing grace.
Okay, that's a very interesting way to use amazing grace.
Oh boy.
But is this the? And I know it's funny. Maybe it's our coping mechanism. You know, when we say things like this, I mean, we think, what is the best you can do? Just look at it and laugh. But isn't this a waste of the weight of their office? I mean, should we have governors?
So let's put it in context.
On the campaign council of
a local government.
Local government.
Monies will be spent. So this is what they will spend our tax money. I will look for trouble with the APC
They spend our tax money to go and line up at the airport to welcome the president and send him off as well. So there's quite a bit of frivolity in governance in terms of the things that we prioritize. I think this is throwing a sledgehammer to kill an ant. This is just way too much in terms of power, in terms of influence, in terms of everything that's gathered in one place for local council elections. It's too much.
And I know it's also for the optics, but whether you like it or not, these governors will take time out of the little time they have to govern their state to see to this, whatever, even if it's 1 hour. They'll still take time. So I don't know.
I think if it's taking time, that is my problem. I don't think I'll have a problem. They will take resources. Yeah, do you think it's easy to win elections?
Time is a real resource.
They will take both time and money from the states as well, because they have to fund it. You know, there's a mechanism they fund this thing. Yeah. So, oh dear. Well, let's see the list of the ADC and the PDP. I just needed your comment on it, but this is why Nigerians sometimes hate to pay taxes, because this, anyway. But pay your tax. Don't say I did not. I said you should not pay your tax. I'm paying taxes, so you should pay too. This Nigeria. Electoral Act amendment showdown as CSOs to protest at National Assembly. Senate summons emergency meeting. NLC says confusion over electronic transmission of results unacceptable.
Abuja is going to be hot today. There are about 70 civil society organizations that are coming out to protest, and even the NLC is saying that if the Senate doesn't buck up and do the right thing, they themselves will come out in droves. So, well, what is clear now is the fact that Nigerians have made our voices heard that we want this. In fact, as far back as Buhari's time, we've been clamoring for this electronic transmission of votes. And now that we have an opportunity to make it happen, we don't like these gymnastics that the Senate is pulling. Here, we have 3 different versions. One version says, according to the senators, said that what they voted for, electronic transmission of votes, was inside.
Real time.
Real time electronic what was inside what they voted for. Senate President is saying, well, there was a transfer as opposed to transmission, and this is because network does not make it possible to transfer in real time in some places, network lapses. There's another version that says that they maintain status quo on what is in the existing Electoral Act. So there's a lot of confusion. But obviously, the Senate is listening. They've called an emergency meeting for tomorrow. They're on break. They called an emergency meeting for tomorrow. That meeting says essentially that they're panicked as to the outcry about this issue. And it won't surprise me if we see them walk it back tomorrow in terms of clarifying. What we're seeking is clarification. They keep saying there's voting accountability that still must happen.
Yeah, votes and proceedings.
Votes and proceedings
that should happen.
That should happen.
Because INEC is supposed to bring out the timetable by February 20th, and the extant law right now, it cannot be in the lacuna. Sorry for cutting in.
I think INEC should release this thing irrespective, even though you say that there's a law that prohibits them from doing it. But with each passing day, we're jeopardizing 2027. So I think INEC should go ahead and come out with this timetable while this thing is still in limbo. But I think after today, the Senate will realize just how serious Nigerian people are about wanting this in our electoral process, because that's the only thing that shows transparency. I read somewhere where someone was saying, okay, if we can't do electronic transmission, why don't we certify and ratify the votes at the polling unit, sign it there, and that's the final result, so that this issue of carrying it somewhere where the numbers change in the middle on the road in transit.
Well, use the right name. Where the rigging happens, where the buy-overs happen.
So the most important thing is we are clamoring for transparency, because a lot of elections have been won and lost on the altar of manipulation of the results. So we want to make sure that is a thing of the past, and this is the one step that will lead us in that direction. So it must happen, and I think we will see the Senate take proactive steps to making that happen, especially when all the members are saying, we voted for this. The majority of them, we voted for this. You saw Senator Abaribe and some of the opposition senators. I think I saw Senator Natasha among those in that group at that press conference, where they said, what we voted for, electronic transmission of votes in real time, is there. So let's wait and see.
And that's how the Vanguard newspaper leads, in fact, gives some more insight. Says how 3 southern senators blocked real-time results transmission. 3 southern senators, who are they? I'm sure you're thinking, is it my senator if you're from the south? Is it Jeffrey's senator?
No, I don't think it's my senator.
Perhaps you have more details.
Well, the numbers say that it's more than likely an APC senator in terms of if it's from the south.
Exactly.
You just the numbers.
Because you know there are more APC senators anyway.
Absolutely.
There you go. Mr. Akintobi has narrowed it down further for us.
Yeah, put it on me.
It's a page 5 read, but you might get more insights right there. But there's something that really concerns me some more on the front page, Mr. Akintobi, and that's just at the very top corner of Vanguard newspaper. If we could scroll all the way, you see manufacturers record 1.8 trillion naira unsold goods as demand slumps. Inventory surge contradicts official claims of economic recovery. More explainers. Raw materials up 15.4% to 1.5 trillion naira. Nigeria's industrialization effort weakened. That's CPP CEO. And you see rising costs, weak demand, squeeze firms. So, Mr. Akintobi, you know, manufacturers, they do their thing. They look at the costs, cost and management accounts. They try to squeeze cost as much as possible so your contribution can at least look good. So you cover not only your, what's it called now, your variable costs. You can also cover your fixed costs, right? But what we have right now is you're not even selling anything. So you're not covering whether fixed or variable costs, obviously because maybe the prices are too high for people to purchase, or they found alternatives to purchase. So what that means is you can't cover your costs, you can't pay salaries, and any moment it's going to collapse. I think this is, for me, a more worrisome issue. Yes, electronic voting is important, but Mr. Akintobi, how can an economy survive with 1.8 trillion inventory unsold?
Why is the inventory unsold? It's not because people don't require the materials, the goods. Yeah. It's because the money in our pockets can't do what it used to do. This is the biggest problem. Even when they say food prices are dropping and you see some prices dropping and inflation is improving, it's not because the fundamentals of the economy have improved. It's simply because our buying power has reduced. And so if the goods, the foods are there unsold, naturally the market people will reduce the prices just to get them out. They are mostly all perishable goods. So if they don't sell them, they spoil and they take a complete loss. So prices are not coming down because the economy is improving. Because if you look at the fundamentals, they haven't changed. I mean, it's buying power that's the problem. The money that's in our pocket is the same as it used to be, but it buys much less. So, of course, manufacturers will have excess inventory that's unsold. And of course, those who have maybe goods that can last long, things like cement, things like building materials, things like furniture, those people might have a little bit of a better break, but nonetheless, they have running costs, so they have cost of value, cost of funds. Yeah. A lot of, like you said, variable costs, fixed costs. As long as they're not turning around their inventory, then their revenue stream is adversely impacted. How do they pay salaries? How do they cover running costs? It's the turnaround of the inventory that keeps the economic cycle going. Absolutely. Remember, there's input, there's output. So if you're stuck at the input level where the output is not turning over, then the entire system stagnates and grinds to a halt. So you're correct in being worried, because the cheery news about the economy on the statistics that are being thrown out there by the MBS, by the ministry, by the CBN, they don't tally with what is on ground on the street. And I put it all on the issue of the buying power of the ordinary Nigerian. That buying power is depleted. And it would take the money in your pocket probably times 5.
Right? To really catch up.
Minimum of at least times 5 to catch up to where we need to be in terms of being able to afford what gives us an average quality of life. All the inventory you're talking about that's lying fallow, before it can be liquidated into the pockets and dining tables and homes of the working Nigerian, there has to be a radical adjustment in the buying power of the money in our pockets. How do we do that? Do we increase wages?
Right. Or do we bring down the price? Or do we do subsidy?
No, do we do subsidy? So these are why economists are the ones who are pulling the levers in Abuja as to how do we, but unfortunately it looks like you adjust it on one end, it affects it on the other end somewhere.
Absolutely. And this is something that I must mention. I wonder how we actually do our computer figures. We call it minimum wage. Some say let's call it living wage. But whatever the case is, do they sit back and say, okay, we've pegged it at 70,000 naira. So housing costs for an average Nigerian is this. Feeding cost is this. So in a month, this is how much you spend. Annually, this is how much you spend. So that's 70,000 naira times 12, which is what? 840,000 naira. Is it able to cover your, and at least the basic annually? If you ask me, Mr. Akintobi, Jeffrey, clearly no. So what the government is trying to tell Nigerians is, your employer will do their best, but you have to do your best to make sure you meet up. And that's why you find a lot of people doing all sorts of things just to get by.
Absolutely.
It's not an excuse, but it's the reality. Jeffrey?
It just creates room for corruption. As long as the pay is as small as it is, government will give you all kinds of reasons. Maybe those reasons are legitimate and, you know, non-debatable, but I feel that minimum wage at 70 is pretty small.
Because that's literally
how much is house rent? How much is transportation at the end of the day? So that's why everybody's, a lot of these guys, they will look for other ways, because we will survive. No matter what you do to us, somehow Nigerians will look for a way to survive. You know, anyway, let's go to the Guardian. We saw the Guardian newspaper. Let's go to the Guardian newspaper now. Treasury bills see over 400% demand spike as manufacturers face credit squeeze. That's page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. So it's stable. It's not as volatile as equities, like the stocks. So naturally, when you want to just keep money somewhere and see how it grows, and then the interest is good. I know the last time I bought TBS at about 19% or so. It's a long time ago. So
you have money to buy TV.
No, with the apps these days, you don't need much. Even with 10,000, you can get it. You can be part of the whole thing. Yes. With 10,000, 20,000 or less or so, right. You just put it. So it's not because, of course, these are retail. They retail it to every other individual. So right. Even with 10,000, you can be part of beneficiary. Just that your interest is small.
You're absolutely right. The problem with this situation simply is that in normal economies, in economies that are running the right way, leftover money from individuals is put in banks as savings. It is that money that the banks lend out primarily to manufacturers.
Brilliant,
industries.
Yeah? So people prefer to lend money to government.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you expect productivity? The money is going into T-bills and treasury bonds, which is a low risk but really low return investment, but it's very safe. Yeah. So people are putting
guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
You will not be owed if you're paid up front.
It's backed by the might of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Nothing's going to happen to your money.
And T-bills is borrowing Peter to pay Paul. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. So this is the issue: is that industries and manufacturers and the businesses that really need capital to be able to expand and employ people are not able to get the money from the banks.
It's called the crowding out effect.
Absolutely, because basically all of that free capital is flowing into the capital market by way of T-bills, bonds, and things like that. That is dormant capital. It's not working. Yeah. It's not spurring or stimulating the economy. It's just parked somewhere. And can you really blame the investors who are doing that in terms of they look at it and they say, what's the return on the investment in the bank anyway?
And their risk appetite anyway is also...
And how many of them are altruistic? Do you expect a Dangote or an Otedola or an Adenuga to go and park his money where he will get less returns, greater risk, when there's an almost guaranteed return and it's a safe investment if you put it in the bank? A lot of foreign money, all this FDI government is talking about that's coming into the country, much of it is just coming to exploit our capital market because they see that the rates of return are good and they are solid treasuries because they are government treasuries again. So foreign investors are coming, but they're not coming to invest in Nigeria by way of building plants, creating employment, doing IT. No, they're just putting money where they can get quick returns and capital flight back to their country. So the economy is not helped at all.
That ties to what the Vanguard, I know we looked at the Vanguard, where manufacturers record 1.8 trillion unsold inventory. Oh boy. Sometimes it's data. That's why sometimes, look, I respect data because of my background. But I think sometimes we need to do data that reflect a bit of reality. Sometimes it feels a lot detached. We're talking with, I think one of our programs, the Business Morning, was interviewing one of the statisticians at the MBS. So he was saying that when Nigerians will begin to feel, which is the reason why Nigerians don't feel, because of that argument about the change in the numbers, annualization, so that we don't get that artificial spike due to base effect, was to say that as far as the wage hasn't increased significantly, and I use that word cautiously, and prices haven't gone back to where it originated from, where it happened, Nigerians will not see that any progress is being made. Whether you're saying foreign reserve is good, which is not a lie, our reserve has improved. Our GDP at least has started recovering in some sense. Inflation is tapering. So we can look at all the fundamentals and say, okay, settings. I think the only, in fact, our naira is gaining strength. We even did less than 1.4 the other time, but the interest rate is pretty high. Although some of us still have a problem with interest rates, is living in Sokoto, while inflation is living in Rivers State. It's not supposed to be. You're supposed to be as close as
Jeffrey.
Kwara.
The long distance relationship. That's what
it's supposed to be like between Kwara and Lagos. That kind of relation. That distance is too much. Yes. Anyway.
I hate to say it, but I like how these stories connect, so Nigerians can see what really matters. We can talk about elections, they really matter as well, but you see, the issues that concern you, they matter as well. So I would advise Labour that now is a good time, ahead of elections. This is when you can get commitment. So please look at the minimum wage conversation. Don't say I told you so. Let's end with Abuja Inquirer this morning and sort of a way to come full circle from where we started from. We started by showing you the list of the APC's campaign council, where we had 25 state governors on that list and all of the heavyweights in Nigeria. So you see, FCT decides, mixed reactions over INEC mock poll. Commission hails itself. Residents decry absence of officials. Group tackles INEC over Ramadan fast. It's a mixed bag, Mr. Kintobi. Maybe we just end where we started. FCT decides. INEC says, we did great. The people say, you didn't quite do great. And then you see the another group saying, this Ramadan fast, how are we going to do this?
I've never heard INEC say it didn't do well.
That would be the day.
That would be the day that INEC will admit that it didn't do well. It will always pat itself on the back and say, we did a flawless performance, and if there were any lapses, it was all the other people, you know, never security agencies and so on. But, well, the mock poll was kind of a test run towards the upcoming FCT elections, and also a test run, a template for 2027 to make sure that things like IREV, BVAS, all of the processes are running properly. But the usual complaints from the electorate, we heard them. Officials didn't arrive in time. Voting materials were incomplete or didn't come in time. Absence of security forces. There was intimidation. There was the same regular complaints. So what it says is that the importance of this Electoral Act amendment cannot be understated, because one of the overlooked provisions, or one of the provisions that we haven't talked about much, is the penalties for electoral offenses, vote buying, all the things that lead to chaos, to manipulation of results. They've put penalties. I mean, when was the last time we heard of people being prosecuted and penalized for electoral offenses? There have been a few in the last few years, but not formidable enough to act as a deterrent. So this Electoral Amendment Act, the mock poll, goes to show the importance. And so the protest today should make it loud and clear that we want this act passed, and we want it passed with all of
those provisions.
The provisions that will give a more transparent and credible election.
I know that INEC, or the lawmakers, let me say, had a chance with one of the amendments about the sale of voter cards and the kind of punishment. So it's meant to be 10 years ban on voter card buyers and sellers.
Yes.
In clause 22, but they sort of said, let's keep it at 2 and increase the fine to 5 million. But a lot of people have said,
who buys the vote?
Why don't you ban for 10 years? Let the punishment be 10 years. And when you say 10 years, you're like, okay, let me rethink it. But clearly, Jeffrey, is a very important question you asked.
Who buys the vote? Am I the one that buys the vote? It's the politicians that buy the votes. I have always said that, look, it is INEC that rigs election. In fact, not willfully, because INEC is the one that signs off. All the agents can sign whatever they want to sign. If the polling officer doesn't sign, that document is invalid, because somebody has to administer that polling unit.
Yes. Go ahead. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so INEC is the one that can, but they can be influenced either by false threat, violence, and all of that. That's why we're calling for the independence of INEC on one hand, and the protection of INEC officials on the other hand, because sometimes when we can sit here and say, oh, they allow them to, maybe there was a gun to their head. What do you want them to do? They have families to take care of. So it's the state protecting them. maybe if the police is compromised. So it's a gamut of issues. In fact, the way I jumped in, Mr. Kayode and Mr. Akintobi, was the fact that I don't know that provision. I'll look for it. There was a provision that wanted to penalize vote buying during delegates election primaries. I think they didn't want us to go there. And we screamed. I said, why?
On a more general note, I think across the country generally, across our polity and our civil society, I think the penalties for bad behavior
is low.
Is very low. It doesn't encourage deterrence at all.
We have 200 naira for some...
and then you say 10-year prison sentence or option of a fine of a small amount of naira. Look at last week, for example, the immediate past Nexim Bank chairman or MD was sentenced to 490 years, and we're all jumping and saying, yeah, now, when we read the breakdown, he's got 10 years prison sentence. 10 years on 49 counts, all running concurrently. So at the end of the day, he's only sentenced to 10 years. You know, so this kind of thing is worrisome, because I don't think that when you give people a slap on the wrist, it serves as a deterrent at all. Absolutely. Whether electorally, criminally, corruption-wise, in whatever case, there should be severe penalties for bad behavior.
You know, because of the impunity, Mr. Akintobi, that's what happens. You hear people say, if they want to steal, they steal pretty well so that they can give EFCC a run for their money. So when you want to steal, the kinds of things we've heard in this country. But trust me, the country will get better.
It will.
That's our prayer.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're saying all of these things as patriots of our nation, doing our job as journalists. Mr. Dayo Akintobi, thank you so much as always for bringing your very sharp insights on the issues of national interest.
My pleasure always.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll get to our very first conversation, the all-important conversation around national security. Stay with us.